everyone, it's Jeremy with Teletone. We recently released our very first audio effects plugin called the Tone Architect. Since then, we also released a full walkthrough of the plugin, but I wanted to do a video highlighting the Tone Shaper section specifically. I think that the other sections of the plugin are going to be pretty familiar to you and maybe intuitive, but the Tone Shaper section is something where we were really trying something novel, trying something new, and that I thought might warrant additional explanation and demonstration. In audio plugin world, there are a few different swings that have been happening, and on one hand, you have a lot of plugins that are very, very detailed, surgical. They have so much functionality built into them, but they can be really, really intimidating with a ton of knobs and different pages to navigate through. And it may feel intimidating. You're not sure, like, you understand what you're even looking at. And then on the other hand, we've had a swing in the other direction where it's like, okay, here's one knob and it does all the work for you. You don't have to worry about anything. Just turn up the knob and you're done. The work part, to me, that's the most fun part, and that's not something I'm looking to remove from the process. So with Tone Architect, we were really trying to find the balance between these ideas of something that can do a lot of really big tonal moves, but with a minimum number of knobs, but not so few that you feel like you're not actually in control of anything, that you're just turning one thing up and down. And what we found is that the key to this middle third route is something that you're not overly using your eyes, but you're using your ears, because that's what got all of us excited in the beginning, was just like actually listening before you knew, before you assumed you knew what to do with 250 hertz on a bass. There are a lot of assumptions that get baked into our process, and we wanted to remove some of those assumptions and get you listening to your ears again, because that's why it was so fun in the beginning. So technically speaking, what is the Tone Shaper section and what is it doing? Well, we had this kind of idea of horizontal and vertical contouring of the sound, but using a really minimal number of dials to do this. And so the inspiration for this was basically some of this hardware gear that I have here. When you think of a Pultec style EQ, if you're familiar with them, then you can select your frequency and then you can boost that range. And these are very broad boosts. But at the same time, you can also attenuate. And where are you attenuating? Well, you usually don't really know. You just know that you're boosting, and then somewhere higher in the frequency range, you're getting a little bit of a scoop. And that's part of the magic of these EQs, I think, is that you are forced to use your ears. You're turning, they're kind of big knobs, which is kind of cool too, but you're not 100% sure what that curve looks like, because we're working, in the analog world here. So we're making moves based on our ears and not by what we think we should be seeing on the spectrum. So yeah, when I think Pultec, I think about horizontal movement on the frequency spectrum. On the other hand, when you think about a multiband compressor, for a lot of you may not even, that may be intimidating in and of itself, but we won't go too deep into it. But basically with a multiband compressor, you think a little bit more vertically. There are these bands, these frequency bands that you are able to compress, or you're able to boost the gain on it, reduce the gain on it, but we think more vertically. And so we are trying to combine these things where we get the horizontal movement of a Pultec style EQ, but also the vertical contouring that you would find in a multiband compressor. And this would probably be a good time to go ahead and pivot to looking at the interface itself. And I want to start off by saying that what I'm about to explain is not necessarily vital to you using this. Like we said, we want you to be able to use your ears to make decisions about tone. But I know a lot of you would be curious about what exactly is happening here technically, so I want to go ahead and explain it. You can see that there are 3 knobs here, lows, mids, and highs, but these actually represent 5 different band or frequency ranges, because the lows and the highs are actually split in half. And the exact place where they're split is determined by this crossover point. So you can see that with the lows, it goes from 40 hertz to 250. And then with the highs, it starts at 2K going to 10K. So I'm just going to set these around the middle. The mid-range represents everything that is in between. So if you set this to 250, this to 2K, the mid-range is going to occupy this space between 250 and 2K. Now here's where I think that this gets really interesting, is that no matter which direction you are turning these knobs, you are making both a boost and a cut. That applies to the lows and highs. So if we have this set to around 150, when we turn it counterclockwise, what we are doing is we are making a boost in the range below 150 hertz, and then we are getting a dip or a little bit of a scoop above that range. And the opposite is also true. Here we are getting a boost above 150 and then a scoop below that. And then the highs are going to work the same way. The mids are a little bit different because they do not have a crossover point. Like I said, they're determined by these other two crossovers. But you can take this entire section and boost or cut it. Now, what are we doing with those frequency bands? Well, you are allowed to, you can be increasing and decreasing the gain both at the same time, whichever direction you go here. But then you can also take what you are boosting and then compress it using this band compress function. So once again, we have horizontal and vertical movements both happening at the same time with the turn of a dial. We also have these filters down here that will really come in handy both with shaping your tone further, but also, let's say with the low end, that you want to get some of that subby information. You want to have a boost that's happening somewhere below 90 hertz. Maybe you want to get 50 or 60 hertz, but you don't want to be boosting 30 or 40 hertz. So you can use this high pass filter to make sure and filter some of that really low end information out. The main purpose of this video was to kind of explain what's happening here, but I think that we should really listen to the tone shaper in action as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I have a drum beat loaded up, and I made sure that there's no EQ, compression, saturation, nothing happening on it. There is a spring reverb on it only. And so let's listen to the beat first with everything bypassed. So, like I said, you don't need to technically understand what's happening here because we're going to use our ears now. You can hear that kick start to really engage some of that subby low end. Let's try to get this high end to bite just a little bit more. Let's get a little bit of an edge to this. All right, now let's just do some crazy stuff. Let's just make some really drastic moves. I'm going to add a little bit of saturation here too. Maybe we'll just turn the mix on the compressor down, and then we'll just do a little bit of a gentle compression here. Yeah, I'd probably do something like that. Where I want the kick to not have a ton of subby information, but still punchy. and then on the high end, I'd want it to bite on the hi-hats and the snare. So I think something like this might be good. Yeah, I think I like that. Okay, so that is the tone shaper section in a nutshell. I hope that this has been helpful. Follow us on Instagram at Teletone Audio. The Tone Architect is out now. It includes a free trial, so go check it out. Thanks.